told me I was the only actual elected official here, and everybody kept pointing back there. We're going to get them people. So I'm a little concerned today. But let me tell you, I'm glad to see so many liberty-loving people here, because my face is getting kind of bloody, and we need you all to send us some help. I tell you what, being in the minority in the House is kind of frustrating, but I'm proud to be up there and proud to work hard for you all. I spend about as much time killing bad legislation as I do putting forth good legislation, but I think the cavalry's coming, and I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to gain a lot in the House this year, and next year in 2011, I'm looking forward to working with Phil Moffitt to make sure that we spread freedom throughout here in Kentucky. Amen. Now, I always like to start with a little bit of a story, not a lot, but a story, a little bit of a story. And the story I'm going to tell you about is way back in the times of the West, during the stagecoach. And there was this one fella, and he needed to get some money. And he didn't have taxing authority like the government, so he needed to actually get a job. And so he looked around and he found out that there was actually a job for a shotgun driver, which nowadays he probably couldn't do because he'd probably have to get a license or something and wouldn't be able to have that shotgun, but there was a shotgun driver. And so he applied for it. They said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" He said, "Yes, if my mom needs an operation and everything, I need the money." He said, "Okay." He said, "Now what you got to do is you got to be careful, because when we're going out, there's a little bandit that comes up over the hill. And when that bandit pops up over the hill, you've got to make sure that you protect us." He said, "Okay." He said, "And you need to tell me how far back that bandit is." And he said, "Well, I don't really know, distance very well." He said, "Well, just tell me how big he looks." He said, "Okay." So they get to driving and say, "Do you see anything?" He said, "No, I don't see anything yet." He said, "Do you see anything now?" "Well, yeah, I think I see something." "Well, how far is he?" "Well, he's about so big." He said, "Well, okay." And they get going a little bit faster. And they said, "Well, how big is he now?" "Well, he's about so big." He said, "Oh my goodness." And they said, "How big is he now?" "Well, he's about so big." And then finally he says, "Well, he's right behind us." And the guy says, "Well, shoot him." He said, "I can't shoot him." He said, "You gotta shoot him." He says, "I can't shoot him." He says, "Well, why can't you shoot him?" He says, "Well, I've known him since he was this big." Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. But now, I'm not going to come up here and tell you that we're going to go out and shoot things. The liberals get a little nervous when we start talking about that. And I'm not going to tell everybody that we want change, because the last time somebody told you we were going to get change, that's exactly what we got. We got no dollars, no cents, just the change in our pocket left over. I look real forward to running with Phil. We're running on a Four Corners platform, basically focusing on four major issues. We have more, but we're focusing on four. One of them is very important to people here, liberty-loving, sovereignty, state sovereignty. We want to make sure that we enforce state sovereignty. The federal government keeps making us obligated. We had a bill in here, I guess a couple of years back, that made the seatbelt law mandatory. Now, I tell you what, I think wearing a seatbelt's important. I tell my kids to wear it, but, we don't need a nanny state telling us to wear a seatbelt. But do you know why we had that seatbelt law? Everybody will tell you it's because of safety. I'll tell you, if you look deep, it's because there was $12 million tied to that from a federal appropriation that if we didn't pass it, we didn't get it. That's right. So we need to make sure that as a state, we're making decisions because they're right, not because there's some dollar attached to it that we want to just be holding for being a puppet or something like that. The next thing we're going to look at, that another one of our corners, has to deal with with taxing, and Phil covered that. We want to strip all the taxes out, and we want to do just a basic sales tax, both on products and services. If we do that, people, we will be the most competitive state in this nation. We've got great Kentuckians. We've got Kentuckians that are hardworking. We've got low-cost power as long as we protect coal and the federal government doesn't tell us we can't use coal anymore. But the one thing we've got a problem with is our tax system, because people keep passing us by. I know a good friend of mine, he made it real clear. He said, if you narrow down to two places, two states, you're going to move a factory. And a lot of times it'll be, maybe the plant manager or somebody else that's making that decision. If you narrow it down to two places, and one of them has a sales tax and one of them doesn't, well, if you're going to actually move there and work there, and say you make $150,000 a year as a plant manager, and there's an 8 to 10% sales tax. So you're going to take a $15,000 pay cut if you move to Kentucky, or you're going to move to another state that doesn't have a income tax. Which state you going to choose? Well, if you got any sense about you, you probably go to another state. I hate to say it. So we need to change that. We need every industry wanting to come here. The other thing we want to look at, school choice and basically providing more choice. You know, I'm probably blessed as a state representative. I've had an opportunity in the past to see all angles. I've had some of my children have been in public schools. Some of my children have been in private Christian schools, and we actually lived in California for about a year and a half, and we actually homeschooled my stepdaughter when we were out in California, and I'll tell you why. There was a teacher there that slept every class for some reason, drank questionable orange juice, and listened to some Jamaican music. So we went in and we were, kind of fussed about it and everything, and they said, well, there's not really a whole lot we can do. He's got tenure. And we said, well, there's something we can do. We're going to take our child out and homeschool her. And so we did that, and she flourished. And then when we got back, we integrated her, back into the public school system. And so it's good for people to have choices. When one group of individuals, I don't care what business it is, or it's education, or government, or anything else, if they've got a monopoly on it, it's not good for society. So we've got that. And then the final thing is we want to constrain government. Several times I have filed legislation, and I'm going to file it again real soon, with what's called a Tax and Expenditure Limitation Act. And what that does, it constrains spending to the previous year budget, plus only increases due to inflation and or population. Now, Colorado did this. It was a bill called Tabor, and depends on who you ask is whether it's successful. If you ask the taxpayers, it's real successful because it's returned billions of dollars to the taxpayers. If you ask the bureaucrats, they're not too pleased with it because they hate to have to return that tax money. So I'm looking forward to working with Phil, and we want to work hard, and we appreciate it. If anybody has any concerns, please give us a call. We are very excited, and we're going to work hard for you all. Thank you all. God bless, and everybody have a great day. Thank you all.